Hello, Andrea Ross here. I'm the founder of the Career Establishment. We are a team building, leadership development, coaching and e-learning business. Now, welcome to Talent Tip Tuesday. Now, every single week I tackle a recruitment challenge that you kindly email in. So thank you very much for that. It's been a really great response so far, so I appreciate it immensely. Now, what I thought would be a really good idea was to now tackle more leadership challenges. I work with a number of leaders across the region and in the Middle East in recruitment businesses for emerging leaders and leaders. And one topic that comes up a hell of a lot is retaining top talent. So I thought it would be a really good idea just to do a little bit of a short information exercise on how to retain talent. Now, you may well be sitting there thinking, oh, I don't need to worry about retaining talent. People should be really grateful they've got a job at the moment. Unfortunately, that isn't the way we need to be looking at that, because as soon as the market does turn, you will unfortunately lose your talent if you haven't been spending time in developing and keeping them happy and stretching them over the next few months. So it's really important to be spending that time with them. So let's just get straight into it. The first thing that I would say is you really need to, first of all, identify their strengths and non-talents when you're looking at retaining talent. Otherwise, you do find that in terms of how you're leading people or motivating or giving them recognitions, it could be completely different than what they actually need. And so you need to provide the right environment for them to reach their high potential. So to identify their strengths and non-talents, it's a lot easier to use a diagnostic tool. There are loads of them out there. There's Myers-Briggs, there's DISC model, there's Hogan, there's Clifton Strengths, there's Belbin. Now, you do need to be partnering with an external provider that's actually qualified in those areas, or you look at investing internally at somebody doing that manages that throughout your whole process. It's definitely a good idea both ways. I'm a qualified, certified coach in all of them except Myers-Briggs, and the only reason I am not qualified in Myers-Briggs is because every time I ask someone what their style is or however they describe, they can never remember it. So I just figure that it's probably not a very memorable, so I haven't decided to kind of follow on that. So it's a really good idea to identify in your team what their strengths are. You know, Clifton Strengths is a great tool to use. It's really cost effective, and you can use that throughout, whether it's retaining talent, whether it's looking at their training and development, whether you're looking at to deal with conflict. There's just a number of ways that you can actually use the tool. And so identifying their strengths and where their non-talents are, you're able then to tailor your style. You're able to identify gaps in performance a lot quicker than if you didn't use a diagnostic tool. So when you have gone down the route of identifying their strengths, then you need to start looking at a development plan for them. Now, if that person's been with you a number of years and you've perhaps inherited that person on the team, then look at previous development plans. And I say co-create because I think it shouldn't be a top-down approach. It's a two-way process. You're putting a plan in place, but you also want that buy-in and you want that input from the team member, because they'll be able to identify and communicate with you the areas that they would like to excel in. And that could be a purely work task. It could be skills based. It could be behaviours. You know, it might be they want to gain more confidence when they're dealing with senior clients, or it could be that they want to be better at shortlisting candidates or their sourcing model. So it might be something more technical. So it's important to co-create that. The next step is creating those milestones. It's no good saying like in a year's time I want to be here. We need to also put milestones that you're able to sort of check in with them and getting them to identify exactly where they hope to be by a certain time through either on the job training that you're providing them. They might be watching you do specific tasks such as sourcing, or you're asking external support, you know, like a career establishment to come in and provide that support. Or maybe you've set up a mentoring program. Maybe you've got some really great senior consultants in your business that actually can take more of a mentoring or a lunch and learn with key individuals on those specific skills and behaviours that you've identified of areas of great potential for that individual. Notice I say areas of great potential. I think with the Clifton Strengths philosophy, it is more about focusing on what people are good at naturally, as opposed to spending loads and loads of time trying to focus on the non-talents, the areas that they're never going to be particularly strong in. It's like me trying to do Excel, to use anything like that. Oh, I'm never going to be good at it. Next thing is diarise time to discuss development. I think it's really easy, especially right now, to get into that habit of just one-on-ones that tends to be more data and what your KPIs this week. And it's more of an admin exercise. It's like a tick, tick, tick. So it's really important in those one-on-ones to just carve out a bit of time to talk about their development. It may well be, right, okay, we talked a couple of weeks ago about me helping you on that sourcing side. Now I know you've watched me a couple of times now. I've watched you. Where do we think you're at now? You know, what's this week look like for you? Which areas are you going to focus on? And it's just having that time to check in, but it's also giving them resources throughout that week that also might help them. It might be that you've noticed a great podcast or a great article or a video on YouTube that specifically focuses on that sourcing. Given sourcing as an example, right? It could be that they want to gain more confidence with a specific demographic in their clients, or they want to become a little bit more technical in certain areas that they're working on your portfolio. But it's about you as a leader carving out time for yourself to put the preparation into, you know, sending them a link of a great podcast that you listen to in the morning that you know would actually cater to that, to help them with that development plan. It shows you care. Shows you're actually invested into upskilling or reskilling them, and it really goes a long way to retaining that person in your team. The last one I've put is obviously a lot more on retaining talent, but I know this is a short and sweet Talent Tip Tuesday. The last one is adapt your style to the situation. I think when you're managing people, it's important not to just have one style, is to really be quite, you know, adaptable depending on the situation that you're dealing with. Daniel Goleman, who's a leading authority on emotional intelligence, he identified 6 effective leadership styles, which I use a lot in my leadership courses. And those particular styles are coaching, affiliative, I always spell that wrong, so good luck at trying to remember that one, democratic, commanding, pace-setting, visionary, coaching. And so each one of those are leadership styles that you should use for certain situations. So if we were looking at the commanding one, which is in black, it's at the bottom. Commanding is a great one to use for emergencies. You know, fire alarm's gone off, I've got to get everyone out of the building, follow me, here we go. Or a client's just complained, I'm jumping on this, I'm making sure that we get this right, I'm calling the client. And so it's great in regards to someone sort of taking control, you know, gives a lot of direction. It's great when dealing with relatively straightforward tasks. It shouldn't be used continuously because it isn't particularly collaborative. As you can imagine, it's more kind of do it because I say so. So I think it is good in certain situations, but it's definitely not one to be used all the time. I think sometimes when you've got a junior person on board, that's really great, and that's a great way of retaining someone in the early days of just, you know, getting, it's a little bit more directive. So for, say, a junior person, if you're trying to have a directive style to someone fairly competent senior, you're probably going to lose them. Doesn't work so well. The pace setting style, which is just on the left hand side, this is another one that should ideally only be used, it shouldn't be used continuously. It's, as the name suggests, it is a lot more of a sort of you're accomplishing tasks to a high standard of excellence. So, you know, someone that has that pace setting style is really obsessive about doing things faster and better, you know, ask others to do the things to a high standard, you know, watch me, this is how we're going to do it. And so that kind of style is really effective when they've got people in the team that are highly motivated, that are competent, know their jobs, and they might need a little direction. And so in some recruitment firms, it works absolutely fantastic if you've got a certain level of people. But if you're trying to do pace setting to someone with 1 year's experience isn't quite there yet, that needs quite a lot of development, you're going to leave them behind. It also can be it's not always the best in terms of change. You know, when there's sort of an explicit discussion around the mission and the role of each individual, it can sometimes get a little bit lost. So it's not always the best one to be looking at long-term wise, but it is a great style to use, especially when you might be hitting the end of the quarter or the end of the year and you've got to drive up revenues. That kind of pace setting, watch me, you know, I'll get the numbers on the board, how are we going to do this, what competitions are we going to run. That's a really good high achiever. Pace setting style is a great one to use. The visionary one is probably quite obvious to some, that visionary style. I think when you're hiring new people into a business, or you're asking someone to go into new territories, visionary style is fantastic. You're telling a story, you're letting that consultant know where they're going to go. It's inspiring. You want to jump on that train with that person and get there. So it's something that really is really motivating. But again, you've got to also kind of, you know, use other styles with it or base it on fact. Otherwise, it can be a little bit blue sky. Some people need a little bit more information than that. You know, exactly how am I going to get there? What does it really look like? What is the data behind that? As opposed to this is where we're going and doesn't it look great? So you have to have sort of a little bit more substance to it. The coaching style is something that I'm a huge fan of, and I think if you're leading a team and want to get the best out of them and retain that team, having a coaching style really works really well, especially when you're kind of running through activity levels with the team on a one-on-one. You know, instead of being quite directive and commanding on why weren't these numbers done? Why haven't you sent 20 CVs out? Coaching is a really nice way of being able to get them to do the thinking, get them to reflect on how they're going to turn that around. You know, we were looking at 5 CV send outs this week. You did 2. Talk me through how you're going to move that from 2 to 7 this week to make up that shortfall. It's just a little bit more, I suppose, sort of say collaborative, but it's getting them to come up with the answers a little bit more. You know, it's a lot more sort of a long-term professional development of individuals, and it just provides that ongoing support. It's still challenging, you give them feedback, so it's a good one if you've got team of consultants that are more mature, more competent. So it's good. Affiliative is that kind of that harmony, caring about the team, and this is one that I think is thankfully being used a great deal this year with what's going on in the world. You know, people are finding it a little tougher to make their placements or you know, find roles out there, and it can be a little bit demoralizing, getting a lot of knockbacks. And so taking that approach where you are checking in, you are making sure that the well-being of the staff, and making sure that they are healthy in mind and in body. So it's a really important style to use in certain situations. The democratic one, I'm a huge fan of the democratic one for certain situations. I think when a team are brainstorming different ideas or different competition or a different direction, democratic especially for experienced people, is fantastic to be asking their input, because you're going to get more buy-in, more commitment from them if they also are able to provide that information. But again, if you've got a group of graduate recruiters in your team, democratic isn't always the best way of going, because it isn't a democracy. Someone does have to take a lead and take action. So the reason I wanted to share those styles with you is just give an idea that dependent on the situation, dependent on the level of competence of your team, change it up. If you find that you naturally have a certain style that might be more commanding, then, you know, try and be a multi-dimensional leader and look at the other styles that are out there, and see if you could use a different leadership style to get the best out of your people, because at the end of the day, they're all completely different, and to get the most out of them, we need to be versatile in our approach. Now, the last one I wanted to talk about was engagement at work. This is a really important one. Gallup, which you know, research analytics house, have conducted a questionnaire survey with 12 questions, and it's a really effective measure of employee engagement. You obviously have to pay for it. You can actually probably devise your own kind of questions to measure engagement in the office. That's absolutely fine. But their findings came up with 12 sort of they focus on 12 areas, and what I love about it is, you know, it would look at whether the boss is giving them opportunities at work to learn and grow. Is there someone at work that's talked about their progress? Do their opinions count? And the one that I really, really love is do you have a best friend at work? If one of your team members has a best friend at work, it does mean that you are happier, you're more loyal, you stay with that company. And I find that really fascinating. So as a boss, it's really important to, I suppose, focus on that affiliative leadership style as well, and create an organization or create a team where that you have got social events that are going on, that people are getting to know each other, they're being vulnerable, because when they're being vulnerable, they trust each other, we can have constructive conflict, and we grow, we innovate. So next time you're thinking of hiring someone into your team, think about how that dynamic would work, and whether they would fit, and it would create strengths within that team. So encourage friendships at work, because it increases engagement, productivity, and we want that. Okay, so that was it, short and sweet. If you've got any other leadership questions to tackle, throw them over to me at inquiries@thecareerestablishment.com. Please hopefully subscribe at the YouTube channel. Do reach out if you're looking for someone to help you with your leadership challenges next year on a coaching basis, or if you want some advice from me in terms of your business. So reach out. Have a great day ahead. Good luck out there.